Now, check this out. I just received our Shadowlands Collector's Edition. You can see on the spine of the box, looks like all the Collector's Editions you've seen before, except we have these full color Covenant emblems on the side. So it'll look great on the shelf with the other Collector's Editions. One of the really cool things about this box is the front cover. It's literally exploding with color. This recreates the moment when Sylvanas broke the sky above Icecrown Citadel, and you can see that cool reflective material. You'll be experiencing more of Shadowlands very soon. In fact, I'm pleased to announce World of Warcraft Shadowlands will officially enter beta next week. Beta participants will be able to experience the max level challenges in the Maw, the most dangerous place in all the Shadowlands, and one of the most rewarding too.
So first off, covenants. As we have said at great length, covenants are the centerpiece of Shadowlands, the Shadowlands expansion. This is where all roads lead. So on the system side, first off, one of the most prominent immediate things you're going to experience is Soulbinds. So soulbinding is this ancient ritual in the Shadowlands whereby two souls can link themselves to each other, sharing a portion of their identity, of their memories, and also of their powers. And so as you join a covenant, you'll be able to form soulbinds with certain key powerful souls that are affiliated with that covenant. These will be characters with vibrant, memorable personalities, many of which you will have met while leveling up and while questing through those zones. So here, I'm going to use the Venthyr and Revendreth for a lot of these upcoming examples because that's the first covenant that we're going to have playable in an upcoming build. Nadia, the Mistblade, she was a renowned duelist in life, and that persona really shapes all of her abilities and the ways in which she's going to enhance your combat ability, grant you utility, and more. And so what each soulbind represents, as you can see in this slide, it's effectively a talent tree that you can, you will traverse down as you gain power in your covenant. You can pick which path you want to go down, customize your gameplay, customize those abilities to suit your gameplay. Now you may be noticing the empty slots in this tree. That's where you're going to put these items that are called conduits. Now, for those who played Legion, you may remember relics that you put into your artifact weapon. These are fairly similar. Conduits are going to be items that you can get from dungeon bosses, raids, PvP, a wide array of max level item sources. And unlike the soulbind traits, which are universal, where an arms warrior and a holy priest have the same traits if you have Nadia as your soulbind, conduits are spec specific. They will do things like improve your ignore pain or your rejuvenation or whatever you choose to slot it. There are different conduit types. Some are going to focus on increasing your throughput, like your damage and healing. Others are more about survival. Others are about utility. Again, this is letting you mix and match to choose the gameplay and the loadout that really best suits whatever you're looking to do on a given evening in World of Warcraft. Now, as you join the Sanctum, as you join the Covenant, a key way in which you're going to progress within your Covenant is by gaining Renown. Renown will deepen your connection with your soulbinds. It will also unlock a wide range of features, rewards, followers, which we'll talk about in a little bit, cosmetics, and more. You'll earn Renown by, on a weekly basis, going out into the world, gathering Anima, this precious lifeblood of the Shadowlands that every Covenant is starving for, or by going into the Maw and rescuing tormented souls that really rightfully belonged in your Covenant, in your realm, but that were instead cast into the Maw because of how the Machine of Death is broken. This isn't an open-ended grind. This isn't like artifact power. This is a more metered progression as you're working on behalf of your Covenant. And we're making sure that really from the start, the moment Shadowlands launches, we have robust catch-up systems built in, whether you are an alt, someone who's switched Covenants, or someone who's just late coming to the game. We don't want you to feel like you're behind or like you have some catch-up calendar. But Renown is a primary way in which you will progress through the systems of the Covenant, including Soulbinds, but also some stuff I'm about to talk about next. So each Covenant has a Sanctum. Now these are, there's loose inspiration is drawn here from things like the garrisons back in Warlords or the class halls in Legion. Each Sanctum is the base of operations for that Covenant, and this is a place where no, you're actually likely to begin and end most of your gameplay sessions once you're at max level. Each sanctum has a number of features to it that you can upgrade, but really restore to functionality. Because I think what we're going to learn as we venture through the Shadowlands is that this was a vibrant place that had its own ecosystem and politics and people with various pastimes, but all this has been thrown into disarray as a drought plagues the land, everything is withering, starved of anima, and chaos really is consuming the Shadowlands. And you, as a champion of your covenant, will be working to restore that order, to restore things to how they once were. And that will be largely accomplished by getting anima, rescuing souls from the Maw, and restoring, activating these structures. One of them that every covenant has is a transportation network. So within your own zone, if you're a member of the Night Fae within Ardenweald, there's a complex route network that lets you quickly access different parts of the zone. The Venthyr and Revendreth have a network of blood mirrors that can basically teleport you around. We want to make it so that, particularly if this is something you're investing in, you feel most at home, most comfortable in your zone if you're a member of that given covenant, because that is where your powers are greatest, that is where your covenant's influence is greatest. Another structure that every covenant has is something called an Anima Conductor. So as I've mentioned, part of the plight of the Shadowlands is this lack of anima. Groves in Ardenweald that were once flourishing with magical energy are now desiccated, withered. Temples in Bastion lie dormant, deactivated. The constructs that once guarded them are inactive. Anima is the answer to all of those things. And so what you're doing as you bring it back to your covenant and to your sanctum is pooling it in a reservoir, but you also have the ability to direct the flow of anima outward toward your zone to regrow, reactivate these dormant parts of the space. Now, what that means in gameplay terms is you can send a stream of anima over to an area, which will enable quests, treasures, events, outdoor world content in that area for you based on your choice on a given day. As you upgrade your Anima Conductor, you'll have more options that you can unlock. And as you engage in the system in general, you can progress towards permanently enabling and reactivating these spaces, both so that you have the content available for you, but also so that you see the world change around you to an extent. This grove that once was withered and dead in Ardenweald will once again be blooming and flourishing with anima energy thanks to your efforts. And the events that were there will now always be up for you as a result of what you've done. The third system that every covenant has is a scouting map. This is an extension of the mission system that we first introduced back in Warlords of Draenor, and we've kind of tinkered with that formula a couple times since then. And I think the basic loop there, we've moved away from its central importance that it had in Warlords, and I think we're not looking to go back to the Warlords era version of this being a source of the best raid gear in the game or what have you. But it's an outlet for some storytelling, some offline progression. So you have something waiting for you where you log in and something that you can maybe check in on in shorter sessions. But we want to add more depth to the system than what we've had in the last couple of expansions. What we have previously really is just, it boils down to a coin flip. You're doing a simple matching game, matching counters to threats, and maybe you get up to 170% success chance to get your bonus reward and hope you get lucky. And really, if you didn't, there's nothing you could have done better, nothing you did right or wrong, and you either succeed or fail. We want to re-envision the foundations of that system to be something that is a better analog to the fantasy that we're trying to convey. The way a mission works in Warcraft isn't a coin flip. The way combat works in Warcraft, when you're sending these champions out into a dangerous area, isn't success or failure, it's nuanced gameplay with tanks and healers and melee DPS and ranged DPS as a party of combatants fight a bunch of enemies. And so this is an abstracted form of that type of combat. It still will happen while you're offline, but there's a turn-based system here where you will level up your Soulbinds, recruit additional champions and adventurers to bolster their ranks, and send troops custom based on your covenant out to complete these missions and obviously bring back some of that sweet loot that you're looking for. If you are a Venthyr and Revendreth, you also have this fourth section of your sanctum known as the Ember Court. Now what the Ember Court is, it's a hosting venue for pretty rad parties. The culture of Revendreth, certainly before things really went off the rails in the events leading up to this expansion, was one of elegance, aristocracy, a lot of those tropes surrounding nobility. And part of what that means is showing off your influence by hosting grand galas for the most important individuals, not just from Revendreth, but from across the Shadowlands as a whole. And the Venthyr were notorious for this. Now, your ally, as you join the Venthyr, Prince Renathal, is looking to reestablish himself, to reestablish a new order, and showing off his growing influence and stature in that area. And you're going to help him out as a loyal member of his covenant. And the way that's going to play out is what's effectively, a self-contained minigame where you can go out, seek out guests, invite them to the party, not maybe literally arrange catering, but figure out the different services that are going to make those guests happy, play through the party in real time, maybe fending off party crashers that are trying to disrupt festivities, and at the end of the day, maximizing the happiness of all your guests. And ideally, if they're happy, on the way out, they'll give you a token of their gratitude in the form of, well, sweet Warcraft loot. Now, if on the other hand, you join the Kyrian in Bastion, their unique feature is called the Path of Ascension. Now, the Path of Ascension is driven by this unique soul mirror, whereby you can actually inhabit the consciousness of one of your soulbinds. So you can play, let's say, as the aspirant Pelagos with a unique set of abilities and go through a series of trials, gladiatorial combat against the most powerful souls of the Shadowlands that you will also go out in your adventures across the world and recruit and capture and bring back to fight within the Path of Ascension. This is a self-contained, combat-heavy system that has a little bit of a boss rush feel to it. For those of you who are very old school, if you remember the Chartul event way back in Burning Crusade in Blade's Edge Mountains, this is loosely inspired by that. It's the same kind of vibe. And this is available to members of the Kyrian. Now, if you joined the Necrolords of Maldraxxus, Necrolords are, and Maldraxxus is the source of the military might of the Shadowlands. This is a lot of the power that we saw manifested by the Scourge in the great floating necropolises like Naxxramas, and abominations like Patchwork and ghouls and geists, and the art of creating those creatures, the art of necromancy, is most closely affiliated with Maldraxxus. And so the structure you have as a member of the Necrolords is called the Abomination Factory. And this is a system whereby you can build fleshwork creatures, essentially, whether it's an abomination or a ghoul or a geist, to be the perfect housing for a soul that's in need of a physical form. Now, these souls have quirks and unique personalities and interests and abilities. So as you meet them, figure out what the right form for them is, and create a body for them to house, you can then adventure with them, unlocking various perks ranging from utility, extra gathering bonuses, to some combat perks in the outdoor world. And again, as always, this is available to Necrolords only. And finally, if you're a member of the Night Fae of Ardenweald, Ardenweald contains in its innermost reaches a sacred grove known as the Queen's Conservatory. This is where powerful souls effectively germinate, rest, are infused with the surrounding energies of the forest, and are prepared for rebirth and return to the world of the living, because that is the essential function, one of the essential properties of Ardenweald. Now, the form that takes for you as a player, this is effectively a soul garden, and it is inspired and has some parallels to the farm back in Mists of Pandaria, where you are tending your own plots, you are expanding them, upgrading them, being able to, effectively fertilize them with different catalysts that are going to shape the consciousness of these souls as you nurture them back to life. So it's a bit more magical, but at the end of the day, its own branch of self-contained gameplay. Now, some other new content. We are going to have, coming up, our last dungeon that we have not yet revealed, a max level dungeon called the Theater of Pain. Theater of Pain is a dungeon in the center of Maldraxxus, and this is really, it's an epic arena, and the dungeon takes place during an important event. There's this regularly recurring battle royale, effectively, where all of the war houses of Maldraxxus send their greatest champions to fight it out, and to prove who is the strongest, who is the most powerful of all. Because that's a lot of what Maldraxxus is about. It's might makes right is the prevailing ethos there, and demonstrations of power and military might and cunning. Now, this has, there are particularly complex layers to what's going on right now, given the strife that's gripping the Shadowlands, that make these particular games perhaps the most important and the weightiest in recent memory. And you find yourself as an adventurer, as a party of adventurers, plunged into this conflict. And the way that's going to play out is as a very non-linear dungeon experience, as you choose which of the different factions you're going to engage with first, as you traverse the catacombs and the tunnels beneath the arena, ultimately culminating in a final encounter where we'll see if you, or well, the 5 of you, can emerge victorious as the ultimate champions of the Theater of Pain. Early on in our visits into the Maw, we're going to encounter probably the one singular being in all of the Maw who doesn't actively want to kill us, at least as far as we can tell, this mysterious broker known as Vinari. Vinari is kind of huddled away in a small cave in the outer reaches of the Maw, and you will be able to work with her to investigate and explore, gather precious artifacts and resources from throughout the Maw that will maybe make it a little bit more of a hospitable place for you, give you more information, increase your ability to traverse the Maw, as well as improve your effectiveness in Torghast. And that's really the theme of the month ahead. We have some work to do to finish fleshing out the structures that we just described, but most of the rest is going to be polish, responding to feedback, iteration, and finally, tuning. I'm going to talk a little bit about tuning because I know it's a hot topic. Balance is always, the most controversial, one of the most central topics in community discussion, and has been forever in WoW. Tuning is the last thing that we do. In the early parts of alpha and beta, we're basically just looking for extreme outliers where things might be so far out of whack they disrupt the feedback that we get. If something is so overpowered that it trivializes content, well, we have to fix that. Otherwise, all of our feedback on, let's say, Torghast is going to be tainted because someone's walking through one-shotting things. Or if something is so weak that it doesn't matter if it's theoretically fun, it feels terrible to use, or no one wants to use it, we don't get feedback on it, we need to fix that.